What happens when a big game that is fun, masculine, and sticks to the source material comes out and is a ginormous success as expected? Well, the woke mob and journalists get extremely triggered. That's what happens.
Space Marine 2 has released to great reviews and player numbers, and yet IGN and other big media outlets are having a meltdown and have started smear campaigns against the game. Triggered
Of course they are. How can they allow something as bad as this to procreate, okay? What if other companies start to make games that are fun and not political message panderings and, woke to shove down your throat? That cannot be allowed. They've worked so hard to eradicate this, and now their efforts are going to waste.
for that was a comment written by the CEO of Saber Interactive, the company behind the game. In the comment, the Space Marine 2 CEO called out other studios and games for pushing annoying messaging and political agendas onto players. The comment, that was made under one of Asmongold's videos on the game, received widespread support from gamers, but it was not soon after quickly discovered by journalists, that then got triggered by his statements and thus decided to start a witch hunt against the CEO. Trying to
Can't say anything good, can't go against the message. You're either with them or you're an enemy that needs to be destroyed. Let's see how this plays out, Cotton.
smear both him and his game. We're gonna cover that, as well as a similar incident where media sites have started attacking Henry Cavill for refusing to support the concept of female Adeptus Custodes and refusing to include
Oh no, the horror, the absolute horror, the lore being upheld, the tragedy, a modern day tragedy. Yeah, obvious. Remember, every games journalist is a failed political pundit. Always. No exceptions to this rule. All of them are failed political pundits. Look at what Paul Tassi is currently doing and trying to fight against Star Wars theory and what's happening there. Absolutely pathetic. All of them, without exception, are losers and political pundits that failed in their jobs, and now they're forced to do games journalism. They hate themselves, and more importantly, they hate us.
them into the Warhammer Cinematic Universe that he's the producer of. Something that is now causing Amazon to scrap all the Warhammer movies and shows they have been working on, and as a result, fire Henry Cavill from his position as producer of it. Like I said, a lot of crazy stuff that's going down in the Warhammer community, so let's get into it. Starting with the comment that was made by the CEO of Warhammer Space Marine 2 that went on to cause a witch hunt against him.
CEO of Saber Interactive comments on Space Marine 2 reaction video. Which video is this? Is this on one of my videos? Yes? God damn! He actually posted this. Hey man, CEO of Saber here. When we signed a deal to make Space Marines 2, all I wanted was a throwback game. We had the chance to work on something which by its nature was old school. I can't even comprehend many of the current games that we play nowadays. They're too complex and too much of an investment. We worked on Halo back in the day, and
I don't think being complex in an investment is necessarily a bad thing. It's the fact that people over-invest in games, and that's, well, typically actually on the gamers. I have over-invested in games multiple times, and every time I over-invest in a game and then stop playing it, I feel so good about myself that I'm no longer doing it, because at some point it just becomes a chore. And complexity in games is not bad. That's why we have different levels of complexity. Sometimes you want to play something that's as easy as clicking one button, aka cookie clicker and whatnot, and sometimes you want to play something harder.
that game could be distilled down to the simplest of shooting loop, but it was entirely addicting. As somebody who spent 10,000 hours on Halo and Halo 2, and probably only about 1,000 hours on Halo 3, at that point I was already addicted to WoW, I can absolutely fucking agree with this. That's what we wanted to recapture. I hope games like Space Marine 2 and Wukong are the start of a revision to the timeline, where games are simply about fun and immersion. I spent some time as COO at Embracer. Oh boy, Embracer, that's short for Death's Embrace. And I saw games that are made that made me want to cry with their overblown attempts at messaging or imposing morals on gamers. We just want to do some gory kills and get the heart rate up a little. For me, this is what games should be about. Well, I think that's what everybody thinks games should be about, to be honest.
Yeah, Agreed.
The only people that disagree are a few people that are activists that are trying to push things, you know? But yeah, this
And they don't even play the games.
this is nuts. I really fucking appreciate it. Love your videos. Fuck yeah. How about that, guys? Shoot them? There's no reason to. They're not gonna come up the top. I think it's just cinematic. I'm fighting. I'm fighting for my fucking life here, boys. Get the heart rate up a little.
I love the fact that the Space Marine 2 CEO actually watches the videos about the game to see what the community has to say on it. I wish every gaming studio would do that.
To be fair, that's not exactly the community, even though everyone knows the game is a success. That's just doing the smart thing and watching the one of the biggest videos on the subject and just saying good things in there. It's a pretty decent tactic. We gotta put that stamp of approval on that one.
But that happening is sadly a rare occurrence. And what he said has become even more rare nowadays. That his goal was focusing on fun and immersion instead of some overblown attempts at messaging or imposing morals on gamers. So translated, he basically said, we decided to go against the norm and make a game that people actually want for people that actually like gaming. To have a CEO that actually knows what people want, because he takes the time to look at what people want, and then has the balls to say stuff like that in public, actually gives me hope for the future. And yeah, it takes balls to say that, because simply saying that you want to make a fun game without hidden agendas has actually become a hot take in recent years, and something that you can
Yeah, BlackRock is already shuddering a little bit when they hear that.
expect to get backlash for from so-called gaming journalists. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. IGN, PC Gamer, Kotaku and a bunch of others somehow got really butthurt and triggered over that comment and started a witch hunt against the CEO of Warhammer Space Marine 2.
Warhammer 2 CEO drama for his comment on your video. I saw that. IGN posts an article. This is like 17 hours ago. Warhammer 40k
Jesus.
Space Marine 2 developer Saber Interactive won't say whether or not controversial YouTube comment is from its CEO. And
Controversial YouTube comment. Oh my god.
so if you click on the article, they changed
The fun fact is, you can ignore everything that games media actually says, and you can still run a completely successful game. They have tried so hard. They went after Helldivers, they went after Baldur's Gate, they went after Hogwarts Legacy, called it, what did they call it? Anti-trans or something? Which made it sell even more, probably, because we know how this works. And so many different things.
the title of this from controversial to explaining what it actually was.
Context. A few days ago, what was supposedly the CEO of Saber Interactive left a comment on one of our videos.
I hope games like Space Marine 2 and Wukong are the start of a revision to the timeline where games are...
We already saw this. Hello?
Kotaku reporter called this out and equaled Saber's CEO to some anti-woke crusader. They were so sure the...
If you're not with them, you are the enemy. So yeah, of course, saying you're not woke is the same effective thing as gassing the gays, because all of these people are mentally handicapped and completely delusional. It's a good thing most of them are not gonna live to 25. So that's kind of nice.
comment was fake, that they asked Saber about it. Saber then refused to respond, and the smear campaign immediately begun. Then today, the CEO replied to a post about it on LinkedIn.
And the reason why is because it wasn't controversial to anybody. This is a media hack that they do. So they say that it's a controversial comment, then hopefully by a self-fulfilling prophecy, it then becomes controversial, right? But the truth is that this comment had 14,000 likes.
No, not really. They're just blatantly lying. There's actually no real plan here. It's just lying because it works. You lie on the internet, say something that's not true, and there's gonna be some people who just believe it. That's how it works. And the more reach you have, the more lying is allowed.
Everybody was positive about it. Everybody was supportive. There was no controversy.
Journalists actually try to paint the Saber CEO as controversial simply for saying that video games should be about fun. They labeled his comment as controversial in their headlines instead of saying what it actually was that he said. These people are despicable. That's not neutral fact-based journalism anymore. That's just propaganda.
It never was anything but just propaganda. That's the reality of our lives.
PC Gamer was so spiteful, they even gave the shitty Gollum game a better score than Space Marine 2. They gave the game
Seriously? Gollum, of all things unholy.
that was labeled the worst game of the year, that flopped and led to the studio behind it closing down, a better score than Space Marine 2, which is a much better game, has much better reviews, and sold over 2 million copies.
I think Gollum and Space Marine should not even be in the same ballpark. It should be illegal.
In just a couple of days. Say what you want, but this isn't neutral journalism. This is an incredibly biased, politically driven attempt to hurt the game because they didn't like what the CEO said. What they're engaging in is a smear campaign against the Saber CEO and against Space Marine 2. And what they're attempting now is to get a comment out of Saber confirming whether the CEO actually said that, to then create a negative narrative around him. But Saber doesn't respond, most likely because it actually was the CEO. And as Asmongold correctly explains here, not commenting is actually the smartest thing the company can do at this point.
IGN reached out to...
Oh, god damn it again. Not commenting is not the smartest thing you can do, because not commenting is admission of guilt. If you're not gonna comment on that, you are admitting guilt. If you do anything else but say, come out and say, yeah, I fucking said that and I stand by it, you are just bending the knee anyway. Not commenting is fucking stupid. You did nothing wrong. Your views are being trampled upon by people who literally don't care about anything even remotely resembling the truth or reality. And you're just gonna sit there and not say anything because you're afraid? No. No, that is dumb. You are bending the knee. You are doing exactly what they want. Because they have... Not answering is saying that they have already won. They have shamed you, and you're not responding, which means they are right, and they're gonna continue doing it. It's the dumbest move ever. Stand your ground and say what needs to be said.
Them, but they did not receive a response. Basically, something happens, and then this comment becomes misrepresented, and then this narrative is created. That narrative then makes the company feel like they have to set the record.
Thank you for telling us what everyone already knows, Asmongold. Very, very smart. Very smart.
15 million copies. These people are simply no longer the gatekeeper to audiences anymore. You can directly advertise to an audience, and
they haven't been the gatekeepers to audiences for, oh no, tens of years at this point, since YouTube started popping off and people start doing game reviews. Remember when Let's Plays were a big thing on YouTube? Already then the gaming news was completely out of the water and blown out. Now it's just setting in, and it's the last death rattle.
They are a vestige of a time that has been gone for over 15 years. So yeah, that's basically it.
It always feels like the people that hate video games the most are gaming journalists. Whenever a fun game comes out that happens to not push some specific political narratives, it also...
Well, of course you're a game journalist and you hate games. How else would this absolutely work? Imagine you thought that you're gonna be asking questions for the president, not a decrepit corpse of a president, but you know, an actual president, or you're gonna be interviewing CEOs like Elon Musk and shit. But no, you need to write about games now because you're trash. I would also be pissed.
Automatically gets targeted by gaming journalists. It happened with Stellar Blade, it happened with Black Myth Wukong, and it's once again happening.
Oh yeah, I actually forgot about Stellar Blade, the way that they tried to frame everything that's there as misogynist. Okay, Chief, okay. Sit down in the special corner.
With Warhammer 40k, Space Marine 2. And what did all these games have in common other than being targeted by journalists? Right, they had a positive reception and did great financially. And Asmongold is right, journalists don't hold nearly as much power and influence over the industry as they used to. Nowadays, people have so many other sources they can get their information from. And people rather trust gaming YouTubers and streamers than some political activists, aka journalists, that in the end didn't even play the game they just reviewed.
Why would you ever Why would you ever trust a political activist?
And just seems furious that they get less
The name activist implies that they are gonna do everything to just, put people on their line, and they don't care how they do it.
clicks in a month than Asmon gets in a week. And this is a big reason as to why all those games that get blasted by journalists still end up selling well. The voices of gamers are getting louder, while journalists are losing all their relevance and trustworthiness. And that does give me hope for the future. And so do CEOs like the one from Saber openly stating his opinion because he values the support of gamers more than the hate of some journalists. As he should. But this does bring us to the next story about Henry Cavill, a huge Warhammer fan, who, as everyone probably knows at this point, is gonna be the producer of Amazon's Warhammer Cinematic Universe. And he's one of the people supportive of Space Marine 2 who stated that he's gonna get it on launch day. And since the game managed to hit over 200,000 concurrent players on launch, and that's only counting Steam numbers, he clearly wasn't alone.
Steam's the biggest number, so the rest kinda don't matter.
Warhammer fans have received the game pretty positively. And no matter how the media tries to slander it, Henry is proud stating that he's a fan and that he's going to support Saber by buying it on launch day. Cause yes, Henry is a huge gamer and a huge Warhammer fan. Thus, he's of course a huge fan of the Warhammer games.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about gaming. How much time have you been carving out for your gaming life?
A fair amount.
Okay.
When I say a fair amount, that probably means a lot for those who don't know.
Just 4 hours a day.
Yeah, I mean, maybe more. I have been playing Warhammer Total War, Warhammer 3 Total War. And yes, some people of culture in the audience. I love that game. It's so good.
Definitely a good game.
So yes, who would have thought that the most giga-chat looking actor in Hollywood spends his free time sitting at home and either playing video games for over 4 hours a day or painting Warhammer miniatures. There was no better pick to lead the Warhammer Cinematic Universe than him. At least
I mean, Amazon's definitely not happy about this, and they're probably pretty mad because they most likely thought that they can just get him. And then they can just wave a little bit of cash in front of him and he's gonna dance to their flute. But seemingly that's not exactly happening. And now they're pissed.
that would have been the case if Amazon wanted to create an accurate Warhammer adaptation. But as it turned out...
Oh, Amazon has enough money to... The Rings of Power, everything Amazon, all of these shitty shows, the Wheel of Time that was an absolute disaster, all of these things are just vanity projects for Amazon. They have saved enough money to just burn it. And that's what they're doing. Because remember, the word fiduciary duty is a meme. It doesn't do anything unless a company does something that completely tanks them, and then fiduciary duty is pretty much maybe just broken. Maybe. Not 100%, but maybe. So, any big company can just waive fiduciary duties goodbye. For example, Disney. They're literally existing only on loans and investor capital at this point. They're not making money. They don't seem to care about making money. You know, the Acolyte, now Agatha is out. There's so many things. They just care about virtue signaling. They just care about political messaging and whatnot. Making money is not an issue for them because they already gave up on that.
But that's not what they are going for at all. It was them who pushed Games Workshop to retcon the lore to introduce female custodies, cause Amazon wanted to use them in their universe without fans being able to argue that it goes against the lore. Even though it did go against the lore obviously, cause the custodies have always been an all-male faction since their introduction decades ago. So what Games Workshop got was a bunch of problems, cause the fans revolted against that. And what Amazon got was a bunch of problems as well, cause Henry Cavill was one of those fans who revolted against the introduction of female custodies and plans of female space marines. An opinion that Henry and every fan that disagreed with the lore retcon was a
only bigots hate female adept custodies. And I'm proud, boy.
attacked over by gaming journalists, calling them bigots or sexist or incels, simply because people decided to defend a franchise they cared about. Gaming journalists once again showing off their journalistic integrity. It's as I've said, the people that hate gamers the most are gaming journalists. They insulted Henry Cavill as a bigot. And not just him, but millions of fans as well. They attack gamers and then wonder why gamers aren't reading their articles. Their delusion is insane. Yet because Henry stands his ground and refuses to include female custodies in his Warhammer movies and shows, Amazon can't proceed with their universe. And their problem is that if Games
Their universe. That's already disgusting. Their universe, eh?
Amazon and Henry Cavill don't manage to settle their creative differences until December, the whole cinematic universe is gonna be cancelled. But
what creative differences? You just have to remove the idiot idea of female space marines and whatnot, and there we go.
As I've said before, this is likely what Henry is going for. Just like with Netflix's The Witch.
I mean, you know how this is complete bullshit? There exist the Sisters of Silence, which I like the most. That's why I only pretty much use the word Sisters of Silence. Then there's the Sisters of Battle. There's there's the Sororitas, which wait, is that the same thing? I'm not too keen on all the names in Warhammer. There's a lot of them, but you kind of get the point. Females already exist in this universe, and they do play an actually very important role. One of the Imperium Saints, Saint Celestine, is a fucking female. Yeah. But they don't care about that. Because it's the problem is not that women don't exist in 40k. They do. And a lot of them, in fact. It's just the fact that we need to ruin it for everyone else because we hate you. That's pretty much, I honestly think, what's happening here.
He's ready to leave the project if it's not accurate. He's a huge lifelong fan, and he would rather have no Warhammer Cinematic Universe than one that's infected with tons of annoying messaging and political agendas that ruin the accuracy and the fun for everyone watching it. So both Henry Cavill and the CEO of Saber Interactive decided to stand up for the Warhammer franchise and for fans of it. This is amazing to see. Hopefully this gets the ball rolling and motivates other companies to also prioritize fans and audiences over ideology. Cause it's not the journalists that are going—
Oh, that's gonna be hard for these woke lunatics to prioritize fans over their messaging. Anyway, that was nearly on 10 out of 10. Bye!